Peekaboo, peekaboo, I see you too. What is going on, guys? Welcome to Beard of Darkness Book Reviews. We're live on another episode of Booktube and Beyond. And tonight, I have a wonderful guest, a guy that's dealt with my scheduling issues, and he's been patient, and I'm so happy to finally have him here because I've been watching all of his videos. I know what he does for a living. I know why he does it. So I'm maybe a little bit stalkerish because I love his videos so much. Evan from Father and Sons Reads or Comics. How are you doing tonight, my friend, man?
Doing great, man. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me on here. I've been looking forward to it for a while now.
I appreciate that. And of course, so one of my favorite things to do, man, is like, of course, I catch myself like doing that doom scroll thing, right? And 99% of the time, because I rarely venture out, I do some political stuff, but most of the time it's like that creative thing for me. If I'm not yelling at my kids or chasing them around or they're yelling at me, it's like, who inspires me to keep creating? And you happen to be one of those wonderful content creators, and that's why I had you on the show, and I'm so happy you're here, man. How's your night been? Where do you hail from?
I'm down near Greenville, South Carolina. So I've been here for about 23 years now, but originally from Virginia, coal mining country. So, but yeah.
So I know here in Ohio, the weather, let's see it's 29, dude, it's frigid. 29 doesn't sound crazy, but for some reason, a 29 with the sun out is like, I can go without a coat. This is 29 that is frigid to the bones. What is it like where you're at?
Not too bad today, actually. It was up in the 60s, but kind of drizzly and stuff.
60s.
So,
how dare you?
The beginning of the week was pretty chilly though, chilly and just raining. So, turned out nice.
It was snowing today here, and it's very pretty. So here in Ohio, if you guys don't know, it's like 90% of the winter is kind of just not a lot of snow. It's just cold. And then if it does snow, a lot of the times it's muddy. Like it'll snow and the next day it'll melt and it just get muddy. Today was a pretty snow. So yesterday it started and it just covered everything. I got some good videos, but just like it always does, tonight it's melted. It's just cold.
Yeah.
So
we usually only get like maybe one snow a year here. But then you go, an hour north to Asheville, and they'll get snow a good bit more. But
now, North Carolina, right? That's where you said you're in North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay.
Just across the border from North Carolina.
Yeah. So I've been to Virginia. My uncle, he passed last year, but I've been to Virginia. It's very historical, right? At least the place where I went. But I was watching, I believe it was a History Channel. And it was like the mountain living people. I had no idea that North Carolina had woods in mountainous areas, right? That were so incredibly beautiful. Have you ever been up there?
Yeah. We got some great hiking and stuff like that. Just up there and around Asheville and stuff over on the west side of the state. So it's beautiful. It's definitely like in the fall when the leaves are changing and stuff. It's a big time tourist attraction that time of year.
Guys, if you didn't know too, me and him, we have the same barber. That's
It's the bald bearded men tonight.
Exactly, loving it. Actually, you know what? It's hot in here. I'm taking that off. Well, man, it's good to have you here, and I love your videos. We'll kind of start with really, what was it? I love the name. I think the name, Father, and that's what I want to do with my sons and my daughter. Like, I cannot wait until they reach that. I want to savor where they're at and savor every age. But when they do finally read, that will be very cool.
Yeah.
So what was it that sparked that interest for you to start creating content?
Well, originally I started off on Instagram. mostly just, sharing pictures of my books,
which are
mostly comics
phenomenal,
at the
by the way.
mostly comics at the time. I appreciate that. And my son, he was really getting to that age when I started that he was into comics, and so I just thought, oh, that'd be a great way for us to kind of share that. And then he decided he wasn't that into comics anymore.
No, yeah.
And he started reading more books, and he started getting into like Stephen King and stuff like that. And which I've always been a reader of both books and comic books, but my focus on Instagram initially was mostly just my comics. And then I think it was like 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. He read Mistborn.
Oh,
And he's like, Dad, you got to read this. You have to read this, So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so us being able to talk back and forth about it and stuff was just so awesome. So I was like, we ought to do this more often, to read the same things together, and then maybe we can start making some videos. And unfortunately, we've only done one, because then he was in his senior year of high school and didn't have a lot of time to read, and then started college. So, but we did read those together, and then we read Blake Crouch, Dark Matter together.
Oh, wow.
And just, it was just great just being able to talk back and forth about stuff like that. And so he influences a lot of what I kind of get into, and then also I try to influence him a good bit. And but yeah, he's always loved reading too. I mean, I have memories of taking him to the comic shop. Like Free Comic Book Day was always like Christmas Day in our house, and taking him and a bunch of his friends, and then they're in the back seat reading their comics as I'm driving home and stuff. So it's just been something we've always shared together. So
that'll be forever a fond memory, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Just, so one of the things I made a little video about us talking tonight, and I was like, hopefully I can finally be convinced to dive into some more graphic novels, some more comic books. And man, I see you get a lot of comments about them. The omnibuses you get behind you are wonderful, man. I love that. And by the way,
Yes.
Anybody that needs the links to what we're going to talk, everything is below, which he's made it super easy. He's put it all in the Linktree. Evan here, and they'll all be in the description. They're already there. But I caught on to your Instagram pictures, and you do a wonderful job of there's no guessing what is the main focus, I guess. And that's an art. When you're taking pictures of books, it's hard to make it that pleasing of an image. And you've seemed to really grasp that idea, and you've taken it home.
Oh, thanks, man. I have to credit my wife actually on that. Initially, when I started, it wasn't as I guess clean and nice looking, and she's like, "You got to do something about this." So,
dude, isn't it funny how it's similar for me? Like, the wife is so good with like the internet stuff, or she codes even a little bit, like HTML stuff. I know that's outdated, but it still counts, guys. She does graphic design, and I can relate with it, because if I take a bad picture, I don't have to wonder if my other half is going to be honest, because brutally sometimes she's like, hold on, that's shit, let me show you how to do this.
Oh yeah, with this stuff, with what I do for work, she is definitely my she's my muse and my toughest critic.
That's cool, man. I love that. And that's important, because there's a level of respect that goes unmatched with that type of relationship.
Yeah. But yeah, if it is my job tonight to get you into stuff, I will do my best.
Good deal.
Just even I don't know if it came up in your talk with the Jay Kristoff. Did he bring up his comic writing?
No, he didn't, and it's probably because I didn't ask about it. I noticed that he did a lot of that, though.
Yeah, I know he's got a current series out that's kind of like a DC mixed with dark fantasy, called Steel. Actually, I'll find out for sure.
Yeah.
So if you're a big fan of him, right there, that's an in for you.
And I think the biggest holdup for me is like I have a hard time, at least I haven't tested this theory. This is just me saying so because I think it. Uh, Following a visual and
Mm,
um, the written word. Maybe I can't imagine that would be difficult, but at the same time, I enjoy how when I'm reading a book, it's my world that I'm being influenced by the author, right? I get to create in my own mind
sure.
what that world is based on what they are putting on the paper. In that world that you really do a wonderful job of talking about, do you still get that kind of rush that I get, or you probably still do get through just reading the written word?
I do, and I think like but it is different, like you say. Um, but I guess I enjoy especially the artist, whoever the artist is on the book. The art has got to be good, or I just can't get into it, no matter how good the writing is. Um, so it's kind of that combo of having both a good writer and a good artist to kind of really be able to get into it for me. If it's just something that's well written, but the art is crap, then it's really tough for me.
I've
Um,
always acknowledged that too. By the way, I totally give those who do graphic novels, especially because I've done my share of, as a younger man, like comics. The mixture would be the graphic novels for me. I think I'd be most interested in diving into. And how hard would that be, right? To not necessarily just evoke that feeling of love through the written word, but also trust the artist to follow through and
to
hopefully they
interpret that.
capture the visual. That's hard.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So
But
I'm looking forward to it.
I understand that struggle, but I think it's key, like finding something like a genre, or it may not be superheroes. Like most of my stuff here is superheroes, but then I do have all my really getting into Conan stuff up here, and Star Wars and other kind of more independent stuff. But finding that genre that you enjoy in books, and then maybe trying to find something in comics that kind of speaks to that. It
And
could be a way for a new reader to kind of jump into it.
and I'm guessing that, and basically asking you, like, with indie stuff, or even if it's traditionally published, as far as literature goes, is the amount or the array of different genres and subgenres just as large in comics and in graphic novels?
Oh, for sure. I mean, more over on the indie side than like DC or Marvel. But you got Image and Dark Horse. They do all kinds of different stuff. So, and then there's
I,
a plethora of other publishers out there that do a variety of things.
Incredible. I think if the first one I'm going to dive into, and this is just because I love the movie, I love noir, and I've talked to a lot of people who tell me that it just adds up, is
City.
Sin City. Yes, man. I
that
love that
that is,
movie.
and well, that is a great one to jump into then, because it's easy. The art does the bulk of the work in that one. So and it's gorgeous. So just let Frank Miller, and Frank Miller's the artist and the writer. So
Okay, so he's the same. Okay,
he does the whole thing. So yeah, that would be that's an awesome book that everybody should check out.
man, talk about save some talent for the rest of us. To be able to write and come up with those visuals, I think if you can do that, I think would probably be the best translation between the written word and the
Yeah, to be able to
artistry,
do
right?
both.
But I'm going to guess, because I don't know, but I'm going to guess that a lot of writers, at least for graphic novels, aren't the artists, or do you find a lot of that?
Over on the more kind of indie side of things, you get a lot of writer artist. And then you get some, like Jeff Lemire, who writes some DC stuff, but he's got a lot of books that he wrote and drew too.
Okay.
like what's the one that got turned into a Netflix show? Sweet Tooth.
Oh yeah, dude, I love that show.
Yeah, so he had a comic that he did at DC for a long, I think it was like 24 issues. I got the compendium here somewhere. And he wrote and draws it. So he does a lot of his own stuff. And like a great one, and having kids too. Bone by Jeff Smith.
Bone by Jeff Smith.
It is a wonderful book. It starts out very kind of like comic strip in your newspaper type of things. You know, you got these little characters that look like it's like little like white Smurfs, but kind of or something. But then by the time he finished that book, I mean, and it's a book that thick when it's collected, it's like Lord of the Rings level fantasy.
Wow.
And so, especially for younger readers, if they get started on book one and then kind of grow and travel through it as they age, and that's a really good one. And the art on that is incredible.
I do think too,
really
like maybe as a young person, like, man, that's a good place to start, I would guess, because it's easier for my 6-year-old son to look at something and say, oh, that's cool. It looks cool. Rather than having to wait until he can read proficiently.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, you know, you have the visual to kind of go along with the words. So like maybe if it's a word, as you know, that you're younger and you're reading a comic and you get a word that you don't understand, you have that visual to kind of maybe help you. So I think comics are an excellent place to help kids start reading.
I love that, man. Thank you for giving me some wonderful recommendations. I'm definitely going to check those out, especially Sweet Tooth, because, man, I dig that. And, you know, another one I think I'm going to check out, too, because I love the show and I love his dad, is Lock and Key.
Oh, yeah. I read that back in October for my spooky season read. And I haven't watched the show yet just because I loved the book so much.
Yeah.
That I take that back. I watched the first episode and I haven't went back to it yet just because I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're going to capture what the book did, you know?
Oh, well, I can't speak to that, but I can say, man, the series is excellent. I really enjoyed it. I did. Ryan, my man, it's so good to see you here, Skeff.
Yeah, so I got that.
There it is.
Right there.
Dude,
and this is... I went in expecting one thing, but it kind of was more of a fantasy than a horror.
Okay, yeah.
There's definitely some horrific stuff, but yeah, this is an excellent read.
I love a nice omnibus, and I also love a hardcover, so that hits multiple areas right there. Skeff, man, it's good to see you, brother. Lost Souls, if you're into a dark sci-fi with wonderful character work, check out. He's a wonderful indie author. Lost Souls, and it's not too big. It's not something you're going to breeze through because it's somewhat of a more complex character work, a little bit more complex of a plot, but so good. So it's good to see you, man. I have a coworker who collects graded comics as an investment. Do you do anything similar?
No, I do not mess around with graded comics. I like to read my books, and I've just never really I've never been I never considered myself a collector. I considered myself a reader. And so, yeah, I just never got into that side of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's funny because that brings up a wonderful topic. And I know you get these as well, as the broken binding editions, right? And you're in America, so we pay the same price with shipping. It's pretty cheap even in America to get a nice special edition. Like, I think that's like $50 a month or something. I keep seeing this argument of, do we read the special editions or do we not? I'm in the club where I read them.
Yeah, me too.
So you do.
Unless it's like I just finished the I can see it right here, 3 Body Problem.
Oh, you finished it.
I finished it right before I got all the books. So I was like, well, those will be kept pristine, I guess.
No, I
But
dig that. I'm anxious to ask you, by the way, because I haven't talked to anybody who's finished that trilogy. What hard sci-fi, right? Hard sci-fi.
very much.
Um, give me the rundown. What's the overview? What's a little bit of what was your experience with that whole trilogy?
So I really enjoyed the first book. Just the, and even I'd say for the whole trilogy, the coolest thing about it is just the amount of different concepts and you know, both what an alien encounter does to society, what it does to technology, just all these things that he explores throughout the whole trilogy. I really enjoyed the first book.
Mhm.
The second book left me a little cold, but it had some really great moments.
Okay.
And then the third book, still similar to the second, but it had just so this is like way in the future, like thousands of years have passed, and the concepts of where humanity goes and what happens because of being introduced to other beings in the galaxy was just a really fun kind of thought experiment to me.
Definitely a thinking trilogy.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I would it's more about the concepts than it is the characters, which I kind of feel is a negative to it.
A lot of people
But
say that.
I enjoyed it overall. It's not my favorite thing I've ever read,
Okay.
but I'm glad to have read it, I guess.
The reason I ask is there's some books that I had been wanting to purchase, and I don't sell a lot of what I buy, hardly ever. And I ended up selling that trilogy.
Oh, from the book and binding?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really, really wanted the John Gwynne hardcovers. Favorite author. It's hard to pick a favorite, but I have a few favorites.
Yeah.
He's one of them. And instead of keeping that trilogy, I did sell it. But I love sci-fi. I just don't know if I'm that big of a fan of hard sci-fi. Like Sun Eater. I'm loving Sun Eater. And that's not hard sci. It's very much that mixture of sci-fi and fantasy. It's about the characters and the plot. Not about
that's one of those that I'm just dying to get to.
Okay.
But people tell me I should read Red Rising first.
Okay,
before I read that. So I'm like, oh, really? So I have to, I have to wait.
Right.
I don't know what to do.
So I read Sun Eater. I haven't read the whole 6 that are out right now. I've only read 1.5, and even just with that 1.5 in the books for me, like I'm sold. I got the special editions just because I know how wonderful it's going to be, just based off of what people have told me.
Well, I got the diamond edition.
I've seen that, dude. That
just
thing is gorgeous.
Yeah, just based on interviews I heard with him. I was like, I know this is going to be something that I'm going to be into. So I was fortunate enough to get one of those.
Man, that was before that I was even on. There was a couple things. The Of Blood and Fire Broken Binding edition from Ryan Cahill. I wasn't in the community yet. And then so there's just a few of them that I wish I would have known about, and the Diamond edition is one. But I am happy to say that
those broken binding ones are pretty, though,
dude. Yeah, I'm very excited to have that whole set, just because they've become very important to me.
Yeah.
And it's weird, that connection that I have to a book that I haven't read yet, that I'm like savoring to get to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would say that's the main series, along with Ryan Cahill. I haven't read of War and Ruin yet.
I've only read a short story in that there was a collection of short stories by independent authors the Winds of Winter, I think,
yeah, the Winter's Advent or Advent of
yeah,
Winter.
yeah, that had been a winner. And his shorts, just reading his short story in there, I'm like, that's another series that I have to read because it was just
Dude.
so good.
So, well, really quick, I'll sum up for you. I did not start reading until I was 29. I'm 34. This reading thing has been it's a current addiction, and it's a recent one that I didn't have. I found it in the hospital. I was in the hospital. I found reading. So ever since then, I've dived headfirst, like, and I'm still there, and I don't think it'll ever leave, just because I have such a passion for it.
So what got you started? What was the book that you first read in the hospital that got you started?
James Rollins was
Oh, okay.
absolutely the very first, Sandstorm from him, which is book one of Sigma Force series. And then from there, I found out that he was a fantasy writer under the moniker James Clemens.
Oh, okay.
And then he got his break of the Moonfall Saga under James Rollins, which is a fantasy series, top 3 fantasy series for me. So he
Awesome.
is the first. Now, the book that like got me to why we're speaking right now is this one right here. Oh, sorry. Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. It's Victorian Gothic type feel fantasy, dark academia, but breaks the barriers of the idea we have when we hear dark academia. It's very not what you're thinking. So yeah, those were the very first influences I had, and just dove like head first, and I'm loving it. So I don't even remember where I was going with that rant, but yeah, that's where I started.
Awesome. I've always been a reader, mostly focused on comics for majority of my life, but still, 2, 3, 4 books a year, type of reader. And I would get in the like, it started out for me was, Scholastic Book Fair in school, and reading Ender's Game that I got from a Scholastic Book Fair, or like I remember just loving Call of the Wild and White Fang by Jack London, when I was probably middle school, early middle school. But I would go through phases where I just would only read. Like I remember getting at the end of high school, really getting into Anne Rice, and that was all I would read, or then getting into Neil Gaiman,
Okay, yeah.
and so I go through phases. Or like a comic book writer I really love, Greg Rucka. I found out he is a novel writer before coming to comics, and so I went out and read all of his stuff, and which he hasn't written a book in a long time, and I think he's too busy with Hollywood and stuff. But
so how do you spell that last name? Rucka?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I never spell shit right. That's amazing.
So he actually did a novelization. The way I found out is he did a novelization of a Batman storyline that he had worked on in the comics. And so then he had this whole kind of it was a Bodyguard series, the Atticus Kodiak series that I read, and then he started doing more. He had Queen and Country, which is a comic he wrote about a female MI6 agent, but then he also has a trilogy of novels that is based in that same world.
Oh, same thing, same. Okay,
yeah, same character and stuff. So those are awesome. And then, but the what's the movie that Charlize Theron Netflix movie where they're immortal?
Oh gosh, she's in so much shit, dude.
Yeah, but I think he's probably working on the sequel to that right now.
Yeah, look that up while I talk about James Rollins real quick. So if you guys like, well, I feel like anybody here that watches this now or in the future is into fantasy or sci-fi. So James Rollins does absolute phenomenal thriller like tech thrillers, and it's based on real technology. You will be like, oh, bullshit, but he does a bit at the end of all of his books where he describes what it's used for, where it's used. He goes to these technology conferences. It's all based in reality. So he wrote, this was his very first fantasy, and this is old because you can't find new ones, but this is him, James Clemens. James Rollins is just his other pen name, Witchfire. And this is book 1 of The Banned and the Banished. I believe there's 5 books in that series. It's complete. And then he did, as James Rollins, so under this pen name, James Rollins, his very first fantasy series that starts with The Starless Crown. And it is classic. Now I remember what I'm gonna write it down real quick. I was gonna talk to you about classic fantasy. So this is what I've come to love and understand is classic fantasy with a modern voice. And still, those two areas, classic fantasy with a modern voice, there's a lot of writers who do that well. This is truly, from my experience, a very unique area in that realm. The characters are unique. One is completely made of brass, like she's a sleeper. They found her buried. She's heavy. Like there's issues with that. There's wind ships. I know that's not necessarily a new thing, or he's like the only one. I know there's a lot of that, but he does it so well. And the characters, one of them's blind, and then he takes his knowledge as a vet, because he's a veterinarian. Like he had his own practice before he started writing, and then sold it to continue writing. And he still does it on Sundays. He spays and neuters. But my point being, before each chapter, or almost every chapter, he has. Let me try. Here's one. He puts his veterinarian knowledge into his fantasy animals. If I can find one, here it is. So here, for example, before each chapter, you get a little bit of a new
that's cool
creature that he's created, but very much based in real science. I couldn't recommend it enough.
Definitely gonna check it out.
Yeah, dude. There's not a lot of fantasy booktubers that I hear talking about it. In fact, I don't know of one. And it is, you need to read it, guys. I would love to talk to anybody that's read it. Just because I'm the only one that I know that's read it.
I've definitely heard. I haven't read any before, but I've definitely seen his name and on the thriller side. But
yeah, and they're good, man. They're good, and they're all standalones. I would say I actually seen this. He's a mix between Dan Brown and like Lee Child.
Okay.
And I see you have a Jack Carr.
Yes.
Dude, love that. Dude, I love him as a person. I look up to him so much. But the Terminalist, get out of here, was amazing.
I saw that show and I was like, this is based on a series of books. I gotta check this out. And I've read the first 3 so far, and I have number 4 on deck. And then I've read his nonfiction book that he wrote about a terrorist attack in Beirut. Yeah. And I actually got to go meet him back last fall down in Atlanta, and he is just super nice. And his podcast is a dangerous one to listen to too, because I've gotten so many books on my wish list on Amazon just from, like he recently had an interview with Don Winslow, the guy who wrote First Blood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, now I want to read those. And it's like, it's never ending. But dude, yeah, I love the Terminalist books, and getting to meet him was awesome. So I thought I'd wear the merch tonight. So
hell yeah, dude, I love that. I usually get along with everybody that I meet within this community, but you and I've seen are based in a lot of the same values and loves and respects about people. My man or my lady, what's going on, Beth Tabler? I'm used to saying my man, obviously. But anyway, it's so good to see. Anytime I see you in the comments, it is so wonderful because I look up to everything you do. She does such a wonderful job at Before We Go blog. It's good to see you here always. And congratulations to Mr. Myers. I can't remember his first name. The newest reviewer for Before We Go blog. I'm a part of Before We Go blog, but I'm probably the least interacting just because I'm scared to continue doing written reviews because I feel like I suck, but I'm pushing one out at the moment. It's getting there. It's just good to see you. Rekindled Reader. What's up, boys? New to you both, but I'm digging the vibe. Well, heck yeah, man. Thank you for being here. I'm guessing Theo's your name. Good to meet you, Theo. John A. Douglas. Who's that guy? Just joking. I know him. He's always here. He's been here since I had like -20 review or -20 subscribers. He's a wonderful guy. He's got a wonderful Booktube channel, and he is a writer. Here he is. The Black Crown, Age of Adventures, Book 1, baby. Awesome. Good to see you, John. It says, I just found the author of the Warm Bodies zombie books lives in Homestead in the wilderness. Wow. He seems qualified to maybe write such a thing. Bro went almost full off grid. Well, in today's world, that would be difficult. So bravo. So that kind of leads me back to what I forgot to ask you, and we kind of were moving past. When was it that you can remember is the earliest kind of memory of you finding, hey, I really enjoy reading. I really enjoy books. When did that passion or that fire ignite for you?
I think it was really like middle school age. And I, like I said, it was probably mostly comics, but you know, there were definitely those key books, you know, that I like got from the Scholastic Book Fair, like Ender's Game. I remember picking that up, and that book blew my mind.
Really?
At that
What
age.
do you think it would blow an adult's mind? I'm curious.
I if you don't know,
I
think that if you don't know what the twist is, then I think it would.
I have put off watching any of the movies just for that reason.
So, unfortunately, I tried to read the second book, and I think maybe it was a little too old for me at the time, and I couldn't get into it. But that first book, I still hold it in very high regard. And then, yeah, like those Jack London books and that stuff. But really, yeah, then college is where I think I really started reading a lot more. And I got to credit he wasn't my brother-in-law at the time, but he's my brother-in-law now. He was just one of my college friends. He kind of introduced me to different stuff like Hyperion and that kind of stuff. And I loved that. But then, yeah, it was just a couple books a year, novel wise, until for some reason, about 3 or 4 years ago, it was 2020. Maybe it had to do with COVID or something, but yeah, all of a sudden I've just started.
We caught the bug together, dog.
Everything I can get my hands on, when I do my Goodreads tally, I include any collected comics that I read too. So, which some of these omnibuses take as long as a novel to read.
It's huge.
So I think I almost hit 50 this past year, but
dude, get out of here. That's great.
So, and that's a mix of books, but yeah, I went through Game of Thrones. I feel like I get turned on to books by shows. So yes. Like it was, seeing Terminal List, and I was like, oh, I got to read that. It was seeing The Expanse, the first season of The Expanse. I was like, oh, I got to read that.
Excellent.
So I've read all that. And then seeing the first season of Game of Thrones. I'm like, okay, I got to read that. So TV goes a long way towards influencing me, I guess. But
I get it. I'm right there with you, dude. Anytime that I see like somebody talking about a book, or I find out that there's a book of this show or movie I'm watching, it is a pestering. It's an issue almost. Like I have to get it. Like I have to. As you can see, this is 4 or 5 years worth of books I've collected. And there's a lot more that you can't see. I'm going to grab one real quick. Somebody sent me this. It was a book fairy. And for those who don't know what that is, it is somebody who wonderfully felt the inspiration to send me a book for no reason at all, other than the fact that they just simply wanted to buy me a book and send it for me. So let me grab it. So I had the first illustrated of A Game of Thrones. And honestly, I had really put off maybe the Booktube just because it's what's popular right now. And I'm kind of the kind of guy that's like, if it's really popular, I'm gonna read that later because there's so many people talking about it, right? But the wonderful, wonderful person, Alan Evans, who I still don't know who that is, and I'm hoping for a message one day. Alan Evans sent me this like $35 or $40 book. So if you're watching, Alan, dude, thank you so much because I can't wait to dive into book 2 now. I know it's not finished, but so many people, this is their favorite series. And somebody I feel like will finish it. I don't know if it'll be him. And if it's never finished, that's okay too. But I can still enjoy the road, right? Even if it doesn't end.
Well, I feel like I never really got into fantasy until Game of Thrones. I think I had read a little bit in my earlier years, teenage years. I can't remember the names of any of them right now, though. But I was one, the Black Sun, something, and I just saw it pop up on X the other day. But it wasn't until the Game of Thrones, and I was like, I think what it was about it was it seemed more like just a historical fiction because there's not besides the dragons, there's not really any magic or and then White Walkers, so you don't really have like a lot of different creatures and stuff.
Bernard Cornwell does the opening, so very much so the historical fiction aspect must have attracted him because that's what he does.
Yeah. So, but that being said, it has opened me up to a world of, now I don't care. I want to read everything, I want to read every genre that I almost can't. So this is where my OCD comes in. I'm trying this and I don't know if I love it because I would like to just grab like the rest of all the Terminal List books and just plow through those. But I do like a fantasy, sci-fi, on my list right now is a thriller Jack Carr book, that type of genre, and then a nonfiction, and then I cycle back around.
Okay.
So not sure I'm loving that system. I've only started it the past half a year or so, but that's kind of how I'm trying to.
I love that. It speaks to me in the fact that I'm also on this journey with literature to like, I love learning. Like learning is so fun to me. And since starting with literature, that has become one of the most important parts to me. So going from fantasy to sci-fi to a thriller to I'm going to speak on my personal journey related to what you just said. I want to read. My wife is not a fantasy reader, dude. Like to get her to read Game of Thrones would be close to impossible. She wants to read Twilight, but she just started and is already through book 2 now. The Empyrean series, which is Fourth Wing.
Oh, okay.
And then what is it? Iron
Onyx or Iron Gold? Iron Gold. That's
Iron Flame, maybe something. Anyway, she's on book 2. And dude, if you would have asked me 2 months ago if my wife would have ever picked that up, I'd have been like, hell no, she wouldn't even be paid to read that. And she has fallen in love with it.
That's awesome.
And I'm so happy that she has because obviously so many people love that series. And it encourages me to read outside of my comfort zone, which kind of plays back on learning, right? I was rendered speechless for a second because my man E.L. Montague, another wonderful author, by the way, romantasy is a gateway drug to fantasy. Now, E.L., I knew that you were into the lovey side of things. I did know that, and I love that, man, because I want to have that experience. I think I'm going to read Fourth Wing, just to say I've ventured into romantasy. I'm not against romance. One of the finest things in all of our life, and I'm speaking just from personal aspects here, is the love that we receive from those we love. How could I not relate with that in a book? As long as it's not smut, there's a big difference. I can read a sex scene, but if we're going deep into the descriptive disgustingness that I've read in some other ones, that's a wonderful place to be, and I think I'm going to venture there.
Well, yeah, my wife is she said that she's always been a reader, but until she got a Kindle, now she devours books.
That's the wifey right there. Yeah, you just popped in here at the best time, actually, because I just started talking about you.
She just puts me to shame. Which she can lock in. She gets a Kindle and she can lock in. I have to have total silence. I have to have the kids in bed. I have to have the TV off. I just can't read. But she just picks it up and she just starts reading, and no matter what's going on. And I don't have that superpower.
Dude, it's like our wives are best friends. Maybe they like were in another universe one time as best, because she not only didn't think that she would be a Kindle lover, that she totally is, but listen, she's bought this damn thing that when we're in bed, it holds the Kindle, and she has this page turner, dude.
My son got her that for Christmas, the clicker and the holder. So
does she love it?
She does. Yeah.
Dude, yes, she does, man. That's amazing. And she can totally outread me on a definite 2 times to 3 times faster, because I'm like you. If my kids are asking me questions, if the TV's on, if I'm thinking about something that's important, I'm not picking that book up. And I read slow because of that. I know that about myself. Now you get her, she doesn't pick a book up during the day, but you get her at nighttime, dude, she beasts through those books. It's retarded.
Yeah, I did a video just the other day where I had her on, and I think it was like 26 books in just like 2 months or something like that.
I seen it. That was great. And it's cool too. Like, tell me if you feel similar. It's your other half being interested in something that we're interested in just makes it that much better. So I could tell you two had a lot of fun making that video, because I remember seeing it.
Yeah,
so that's really cool, man.
And she said she wants to do a time where we pick a book for each other and get the other one to read it. So because she's never read any like fantasy or anything like that. I have got her to read one comic collection one time, but my wife's from Brazil, and so it was called Day Tripper, and it's written and it's about Brazil, and it's written and drawn by these 2 brothers from Brazil. Excellent book, but she read that for me. So
yeah, a lot of I don't remember their name. I wish I could, and Lord knows they don't need the extra like subs, because they've got so many. They're very popular. It's a couple, and they have a really good chemistry, and they read together and they talk shit to one another. He's a black guy, it's a white girl.
They sit at the table. I follow them.
Yeah, dude, I can't remember their name, but it's awesome, dude. And it's such a funny and wonderful little chemistry they have. So yes, I agree. So first, my wife says, stop hating. Yeah, never hating. Says the truth. That ain't hate, that's admiration, 100%. And she says that it sounds fun to do what you just said, which is to kind of pick a book for one another. And I feel like I already know what she would pick for me, but like after that predictable stage, right? Maybe we would get into some unknown territory, and it would be kind of out of the blue. That would be fun.
Yeah, I think she said she would have me read probably something like Beach Read or something by Emily Henry, which I have seen some of the there's not a whole lot of guys over on TikTok,
Mhm.
unfortunately, in the book sphere.
Right.
But there are a few that I have seen venturing into reading some of that stuff, and I
Yeah.
don't know if it's for the follows, for the girl follows, but
Hey, at the end of the day, man, even if it is right and they're still really reading it, let's hope that it's all like honest, that they get that experience, because that's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm after, right? If it brings
Yeah.
subscribers, that's badass. But so it's cool how this started. So I threw up Molly earlier. If she's still here, I'm not sure. I'm sure she is. She's awesome. She wrote, and I'm gonna throw all you guys in here. Here we go. This book right here,
Dark Bloom. Yeah,
character zombie, kind of apocalyptic, but character work is right there, and it's a little bit of a love story. So I guess I can say I've read some love stories, but I wouldn't call it romantasy at all. This is very much a horror fantasy mix that is excellent. Anyway, my wife loved this book, so she reached out to Molly for a book recommendation. She recommended this lovely young lady, E.R. Phoenix, Rebel Unbound. This has become my wife's obsession before Fourth Wing. Book 1 is Rebel Unbound. Book 2 is, I can't remember. I have it here somewhere. If I find it, I'll throw it up. Anyway, book 1 and 2 are out. Book 3 is being written. It's almost done. It's like guaranteed going to be finished. So I encourage anyone to dive into this. Wonderful character work. Wonderful, very realistic idea of a society that has become overthrown in kind of apocalyptic way. The rebels that they speak of through the title are those who don't want to conform to this created society or governed society that is where most people are and have to do things rather than select or elect to do things. And it's dark. Sometimes there's a little bit of light sometimes, but it's believable, apocalyptic, that type of genre. And she loves it. Yes, Rebel Unbound. Yes, you should. Absolutely. Senna, it's good to see you. Alex, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your support. You're always there. I appreciate you so much. Got to get back to writing, man. Get to it, brother. I totally love that. Have a beautiful night as well. And yes, that's wonderful. Have a signed copy. Absolutely. So cool to see that stuff. But kind of heard your start with reading kind of leads me into what I was going to talk about next. Did she? Oh, Rule of the Elite is book number 2. Yes. Rule of the Elite is book 2 from the Promissa trilogy. Classic fantasy. That's it right there. So what is your experience with classic fantasy, and is it something that you enjoy? Is it your favorite? Is it least favorite? Is it in the middle?
I would say I would probably have qualified myself as more of a sci-fi guy,
Okay.
but I do love, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and actually now I probably do read more fantasy than I do sci-fi, just because it seems like there's just so much out there. And so yeah, I can't say that I've read a lot. I've read Game of Thrones, and I've read Mistborn, and I'm kind of just now kind of getting into the and of course read Lord of the Rings and that stuff. I actually read The Hobbit to my kids to my 2 older boys when they were little.
That's awesome.
And so
No.
yeah, so I love that stuff, but I haven't read like the Robert Jordans and stuff like that.
So you're more versed in the sci-fi genre, which is really what I kind of began to understand about you, which is I love that, because it's not my experience, and it's not a lot of people that I've spoken with experience enabling me to learn more. So I
But
love
then, but then when I say that though, I try to think back, and it's like, okay, I read the Expanse series, but that series alone is like 10 books,
yeah.
and I've read scattered sci-fi here and there. Um, I read a lot of Star Wars, expanded universe stuff growing up, because that was all coming out when I was that age, when the movies got re-released and stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, a lot of it is still new to me too. So
Yeah.
I haven't found that, and even then reading something. So I would read more stuff like, like I said, Anne Rice or that type of stuff. And then I'd get into like Greg Rucka, Neil Gaiman, I guess is fantasy.
Yeah.
So I've read all his stuff, but then I go through a Michael Crichton phase where I was reading. I think I've read almost everything Michael Crichton wrote.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah. And all that stuff. So
You have an idea about yourself
to
that
jump
may not
around.
even be. You have this idea that you may put yourself in, or this like category, but when you really think about it, it's everywhere.
I'm kind of scattered and all over the place. So I'm not like just fantasy reader or just sci-fi reader.
I love that, and that's the area I want to be in, and that I feel like I am in it in a little bit. Like that's from my personal opinion. Anyone who can say that they're reading fantasy and sci-fi and nonfiction and thrillers has a better idea of the literature world, has a better their window is a little more clear based on multiple genres. And the experience and the things that you've learned is across a bigger spectrum.
Yeah, I would agree with that. At the same time, too, it's kind of overwhelming.
So what do you mean?
Oh, just like there's so much that I want to read. It's like it's if I was just focusing on one, then it would be a little more okay. Yeah, that's just what I read. I just read fantasy, But and then throwing in comic books too, it's like.
But I don't know if you and I would be talking like just based on, we are attracted and fascinated by naturally what fascinates us, right? You fascinated me through your channel in the fact that you really have that broad spectrum, and it does say that through your pages or accounts, whatever you want to say, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, right? You have TikTok?
Yeah.
I think I found you on TikTok then. And then of course found your other stuff and subscribe, but you do a wonderful job at talking about an array of things, because you'll do the broken binding when you get them, but you'll also do what you do every week, right? Is where you get a new comic every week.
Yeah, like every Wednesday when the new comics come out, I'll do what I picked up at the store that day. If I've just finished an omnibus, I'll kind of do a overview through it, kind of talking about it and showing the art and stuff. And then, whenever I finish a book, do a book review. So I just kind of jump around a little bit.
I love it, and that's why
I appreciate that.
Dude, 100%. And I'm always upfront about why I elected to like want to talk to you, and it's because I found what you talk about fascinating and who you are. It's like I relate with a lot of it, and then that stuff that I don't have a lot of experience in, I'm interested in, which is like the catalyst for a conversation, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I totally agree, man. We're right there in the same space, and I love that. My wife, by the way, Beth, made both of us a badass Coheed. I was supposed to go to a Coheed and Cambria show, and unfortunately, we went on vacation. Not unfortunately, we had a great vacation. I mean, as great as you can with 4 little tiny kids. But it got the concert I was going to go to, I wasn't able to go to. But she makes sure, she's a graphic designer. Hit her up if you guys want anything from like the best graphic designer I know. I'm serious, and I'm not just saying that. I'm sure you don't believe me, but she's amazing. She did all of my logos. She does most of my thumbnails. But yeah, she
Oh,
does.
that's
She loves
awesome.
Coheed too. I introduced her to it. I'm proud to say.
They got some comics.
Yes, they do, man. And dude, I love that. I forgot about that. They base their music off of like their story,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
what I understand.
That's how I understand it. I actually haven't read any of the comics, but I've seen them and heard about them and know generally,
If
what it's about. But it
if
looks
you
pretty
like
cool.
rock music, write this down. Anybody watching, In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3 is the best song they've ever made. And it's incredible. It is incredible. Holy shit, dude. I may have to just play it. But it's incredible. Senna, I have to agree with you because I feel like TikTok is just basically romanticy, right? And there's obviously other stuff, but I see so much of it on TikTok, especially even on Amazon. Like, let's say you're searching for a book that you just heard about. There's a little tag that will let you know that Book Talk is this is popular on Book Talk. So very influential, and I think that the Fourth Wing, the Empyrean series, got a lot of its hype through Book Talk. So hopefully that sticks around, and I think the guy we got in charge here in America will keep it around.
I heard just a little bit ago that it was coming back to the Apple Store.
Okay, I did not know that. In fact, that's a good point too, because when they shut it down for what, like 12 hours? It's like
Yeah,
12 hours, right?
they took it out of the
If you
stores. Yeah,
deleted TikTok, dude, you're done. Like, you didn't get to come back on. My
people were
wife
selling
sells.
phones with TikTok installed on it, like for big money.
Yeah, dude. I was like, my wife told me that. I'm like, you're full of shit. And she was so right. Uh, yeah, people were wanting phones with it already downloaded because you couldn't download the app. You still can't, right?
Right.
But if you were on TikTok prior to the shutdown and you still have it available on your phone, you're in there. So thank God we didn't. I guess not. Thank God it's not that damn serious, but thank goodness we had it still downloaded.
I kind of wanted to ask your opinion, Matt. Like, I started out on Instagram taking pictures and stuff. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to do videos, I think I would do a couple of videos on there on Instagram. But really, my videos just don't do good on Instagram. So I was like, well, I'm going to go over to TikTok because I think before I would, watch a lot of you guys on YouTube. I just have that playing like all day at work. And then though, when I started and I was like, well, these videos are short. The videos I make are typically, shorter. And I didn't know if it was like YouTube worthy, but sometimes they can go like, 10 minutes long, but not really much more than that personally. But should I come over to YouTube too and
Dude,
post them on YouTube also, or just I don't know.
you cover. I wrote this down to talk to you about on my questions, and I think that you would have a wonderful spot on YouTube. And I'll tell you the pros and cons. Like, what I do, I never started a channel wanting 1 billion subscribers. That was never in my wants ever. So that was a huge stress off of me. I did it because I was truly after the knowledge it takes to write something that inspires me. Like, for instance, the books that got me to why we're talking right now. I was like, what does it take, man? Because that is incredible to me. Be able to tell a story. There's so many parts to it. I need to know about it. So I started my channel thinking it was going to be a lot like, let's say, Matt's fantasy book reviews, where he does the occasional interview, mostly reviews, or top 10s, top 100, whatever it is. That typical video where it's recorded, it's not live. And instantly I fell in love with what we're doing right now, which is not going to bring. I have almost 1,700 subscribers. I've talked to Raymond E. Feist. I've talked to Tad Williams. I've talked to Christoph. I've talked to these authors that I could have never dreamed of talking. And
Yeah.
to a lot of people, that translates into subscribers. And it doesn't. And the reason is most of the content I make is that long format content. I'm after that personal feel between author and reader and learning what it takes, which isn't something a lot of people will sit and watch for an hour or two. But those who really love the same things that I do will, and that's what I've come to find out. What I think you'll do, if I don't know if you're in your interviews or not, but the videos that I've seen you make are great reviews, are great spotlights on the book. And I think not only would you be doing something that I can tell you would love, based on what you're already doing, like on Instagram and TikTok, but it would also bring subscribers. I really think that you would have a good channel, like a bigger channel.
Oh, cool. I definitely will have to explore that then.
Yeah, the only big difference I would say is like the editing takes longer. Like I don't do a lot of editing just because what we say and do during this is exactly what people are going to see once this is saved and we're done today. With those long format videos, let's say you do a review on an omnibus that's behind you. Like, I don't know how, I know I suck at doing recorded videos. I have to edit some things. It takes a long time. But even then, like, as long as you're having fun with the final product, I think it's worth it. And again, like I said, the way that you do your reviews and spotlight books and how you have a weekly thing, especially you have a scheduled thing, like where you do your comics, where you get a new comic every week, you get broken bindings on a regular basis. That is all good content, dude. That's regular.
Yeah. Awesome. I think you've encouraged me.
I hope so, man.
And I'm the same way too. Like I never did it like trying to get followers or anything like that. I just wanted to share what I love, And one of the coolest things that's happened since I started making the videos though is there's a guy on TikTok, David, who he was doing some comic videos too. But I guess since I had that mix of stuff, he was like, hey, I want to get into reading some novels. What would you recommend? And so I turned him on to the Terminal List, and he was like, I think I'm just going to, mainly focus on reading novels now because he fell in love with it. And that felt so good that I was able to encourage somebody like that, And so now we have a book club together over on Fable, and we're reading The Blade Itself now. So, which I am absolutely
one of my favorites, bro.
So yeah, that was just that bit, and I've made a friend, and we text each other and chat and stuff, and it's been awesome.
I would say there's a few things. I would say since starting the channel, man, something that the YouTube has given me that nothing else has is culture. Those personal friendships. I mean, I could name almost everybody that I've thrown a comment up from, like I talked to personally, or for instance, I got this book today from my man. Here he is, right here, Tim McKay. Like, this is his book right here. Just so many close friends now that I feel like I could call, and if I was having a bad day, talk to them about. Not awesome. Only that, like creatively, I could talk to them. But I think the coolest thing too is like even Tim, he's in Canada. Their days are different than my days. I've talked to ER Phoenix, the one I just wrote up, Rebel Unbound. She's Puerto Rican. She is from Puerto Rico. Culture, man, it's just been so incredibly cool to find out about people's day-to-days that aren't like mine.
Yeah.
A lot of, Christoph's in Australia. Gaurav Mohanty, he's in India. Ed Greaves, he's an indie author. He's in New Zealand. So getting that experience was totally worth everything, man.
Yeah.
Getting to meet people and find out about things I have no idea about.
Yeah. That has been like one of the coolest experiences of doing this, is being able to connect with somebody like that and I guess influence somebody to read something, that's awesome.
It is.
So,
Because, when you get that message that I get all the time, it's like, thank you for Alex. He's gone now. He's going back to writing, but Alex, I'll throw him back. Here he is, Alex Luco. He was like, man, if it wasn't for your channel, there's so many authors I wouldn't know about. And so through my interests and who I want to talk to and talk about and this and that, other people now are finding this, which isn't just for us who get to find them and read them. It's a lot for that person that's being read too.
Yeah.
You get to make a difference in the indie space. That's another piece that I really love.
And I'm starting. I'm actually I'm beta reading a book for somebody that I had read one of their stories in that Advent book and had reached out, highlighted that they had I really enjoyed their story and had reached out to them, and they asked me to be a beta reader for them. And I'm like, for sure, I'd love to do that.
That's amazing.
I just got a e-arc for another independent author sci-fi book, that I'm can't wait to get into, and that's I feel like it's a privilege for me to be able to help if in any way and to contribute to that, so that's all. I love it,
dude. Yeah, that's another thing that in RH Snow, I love every time you come through here. It's so good to see you here. You've been here for a minute. I saw when you popped in. It's good to see you. And she loves what you're doing too as well. But she's an author as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. Beta readers and alpha readers, man, are like the bread and butter to the indie community. Like, I haven't done a lot of beta reading just because my limited time with the kids. But as far as reading arcs, I've done the best that I could to get like reviews on Amazon, this and that. But that's not really something that I didn't even know existed before becoming a part of this community on YouTube. What's an arc reader? Have no idea. And now I get to make a difference, like what you were saying.
And I'm not sure how good I am at the beta reading, because but we'll see if
Well, you're just reading a story, and if you catch something along that journey, they want you to let them know.
Yeah, so we'll see how it turns out, but it's been fun, and then hopefully.
And you get to read shit early too. Like, you just feel so important. Yeah, I do. It's like I'm important for some reason today because I get to read this shit early. Oh, thank you so much, RH Snow. Dude, so I love that. So you've got a very similar start to read. I have to say, while you were talking about the Scholastic book fairs, the one book and the only, when I tell you this, I am 1000% certain it is the only book I read in its entirety before the age of 29. One book. It was called Soldier X. And it was a historical fiction about a soldier in World War II. And I read it very early. And I loved it so much. I can't believe I didn't just take off with a reading then.
Yeah.
But it's cool to kind of like, what were those initial inspirations, right?
Yeah.
In those Scholastic book fairs.
Yeah, for sure. And I was trying to think about it too, even before we came on here, like, for me, like, it was G.I. Joe, the cartoon, and then the comics. And so that's what brought me into comic books. But I was thinking about it, like, I never really had anybody around me that was a big reader. I remember one of my granddad, which I lost all my grandparents. I think my last grandparent died when I was like 8 years old. So, but I remember my mom's dad. He read the paper all the time, the newspaper all the time. And then she had an older brother who we would go to his house, and he just had bookshelves of books. But it was mostly, he was like a retired from the Air Force, and it was mostly like political stuff and things like that. But I just remember just being so holding him up in such high regard, seeing bookshelves, so I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's just something about me that I just enjoy.
It just found you. It found you, right?
Yeah. So I'm glad that it did.
Yeah, and that's very much, my journey as well. It's like, did you have a mom and dad that read? I didn't.
No.
Nope. Me neither. My mom and dad were like, do your schoolwork. They were good parents, blah, 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 but they didn't.
My dad just worked all the time, and I've tried, now that he's retired, I did get him he read Killer Angels, which is a Civil War book, but that is the only book that I've ever been able to get him to read. I tried giving him the Jack Carr Targeted Beirut book, because I thought that it would be something he would enjoy, and he's like, I'm never going to read this.
That is my experience to the T with my dad. I gave him a Western fantasy mix, and a really good book. It's Jesus, what was it? I don't remember what it was. Anyway, it's a dark fantasy Western, and it worked really well. It'd be something totally, if it was a movie, he likes Vikings, like the show. Just, I have a lot of shit that I would feel if it was a movie, he would thoroughly enjoy. I gave him this, and it's just a novella. Old West, something, guys, help me here. Something West. It was in Spiffbo last year, and it's by, God, I can't remember his name, man. Anyway,
Cold West, maybe? Or
Cold West, yes.
Yeah,
that's what it is, Cold West. And I gave that to my dad. It's like, come on, like it's like 80 pages or 120 pages. Like, I'll give you 6 months. Like, it's signed, like all this, just anything that could get him to possibly be interested in it. And that book sat by his damn chair for all 6 months. And I have now taken back ownership of it. But maybe someday. Yeah, man, 100%. My dad is not into reading. Now, my mom, I feel like, could be a reader, but she won't allow herself to even, I don't know, she won't take that leap for some reason. But I get it. I was there.
Actually, I take that back. I do remember my mom at one point, she was reading like the Little House on the Prairie books, the actual Laura Ingalls Wilder books, I think. But that's kind of really the only thing I can remember that I've ever really seen her read. And she I take that back again. She got into Outlander, and she got the first book, but I don't know if she ever finished it.
Yeah, just kind of not the habitual reader, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, my grandmother, my dad's mom, very much into those old school mass paperback romance books. Just would go through like 2 a week. So there's reading in the family. I do remember just like this endless bookshelf of romance, which is a fond memory, right? It's so cool to think back and have this connection to her, because she died when I was young. But nonetheless, still having that connection with her today. But yeah, my mom and dad, zero reading. They did encourage me to read, but it's kind of like with my dad and mom smoking cigarettes. And I know I smoke cigarettes, but you shouldn't. I mean, it just kind of, it happened, and almost following in their footsteps a little bit too much. But nonetheless, we had a similar experience.
Yeah.
So what are you reading right now?
So right now, I'm reading
That's
Blade
right.
itself.
Blade itself. Which, dude,
Yep.
where are you at? How far are you in?
I just finished part 1.
Okay.
So I'm like 40% through.
Get ready to laugh your ass off, dude.
Yeah, to me, it's just the characters. It's what it's all about, and it's just great.
Dude,
I love it.
you start off with Logan, and he's running, and there's some shit going on, but it starts off with character work, and it doesn't let up.
Yeah, yeah. And I hear a lot of people talk about Glocta being their favorite,
Glocta?
but I love Logan because he just keeps surprising me in a way. Like, because he starts out and he kind of reminds me of like a Conan type character.
Yeah.
But he's someone who is a lot smarter than what they appear. And I just
He
think
is,
that's
and he doesn't let
really,
it be known either. It's like not
yeah,
until somebody kind of asks him.
yeah. So this is my first Joe Abercrombie, and I'm absolutely loving it.
Let me know when you're done with it, because I want to know if your vision or opinion on Glocta changes at the end.
Okay.
Because it very much did for me. Like
I enjoy his character very much, and I feel like his story is so tragic, but that for him to be, or his thoughts are so funny, and dark for sure. But
I'm not going to say absolutely anything at all, but I would love to know when you're done, because I want to ask you about a couple things that happened. And he is a wonderful character.
And then, like I said, I'm beta reading the book right now, and I'm getting ready to start an arc that I need to get done before, I think, the second week of March, when that's coming out. So I typically like to read. This is kind of new to me. Just start with us starting the book. David and I starting the book club together over on Fable. I found myself having to read a bunch of books at the same time, and I usually like to focus and kind of plow through one. So now I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, and then I've been listening to the Wayward Pines series by Blake Crouch. I just finished the second book of that.
What is your book club called? Because I downloaded Fable literally last night.
It's just literally Evan and David's book club.
Evan and David.
Yeah.
Good deal. I'll be joining that.
Awesome. And then, just reading the stack of comics that I picked up yesterday. So,
what would you say is your favorite current comic series?
My favorite. Let me see here. I'm loving the Absolute books at DC. So like Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman.
That's the one, dude. Is the
Absolute
Absolute Batman? Is that one that's dude, Talking Story? My guy John Mitten had it on there. It is just the biggest fucking hardcover I've ever seen. It's Absolute Batman or Darkest Batman.
That's probably Absolute Dark Knight. So there's absolute editions of DC books are like these huge collections of books, but this is so I guess to explain a little bit, Marvel years ago did what they called Ultimate Comics, and so it was like a Spider-Man. It was in a totally new universe, starting from scratch. Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and that went on for a number of years. They've brought it back now and started it over again, but it's separate from the regular Marvel comics. So DC is now doing that with the Absolute line. So that's different than the Absolute collections. But it's kind of like a new take. They spin it a little bit, so it's not the Batman that you typically know.
Yeah.
But they've been really good. DC has been killing it. Marvel has a couple of good books, but I which is weird for me because I grew up mainly a Marvel reader. And just the last couple of years, they've just DC's kind of taken the ball, in my opinion.
Okay.
But then you got, I'm loving the G.I. Joe Transformers stuff over at Image. They have kind of back into my childhood with those books.
Very nice.
But I was trying to look through my stack and see what really popped out at me.
I just found it. I'm gonna throw it up here on the screen here in a second. Here it is.
But some of my favorite books that I look forward to the most right now are coming from over at Image.
It's just Image
Comics. There's a imprint within that called Ghost Machine.
Okay.
And they have the Geiger. This is the newest issue that came out yesterday. Jeff Johns. He is. I love his work. Anything he writes, I enjoy. And they got great artists. So there's Geiger, the Rockefellers, which is kind of like a family that is running away from something in the future, and they come back to the past to kind of hide out. But it's got a cool family vibe to it.
Okay.
So that's by Peter J. Tomasi and Francis Manapool. I know I'm forgetting something else, but yeah.
Oh, that's inevitable.
There's all kinds of. I'm really getting the guy that writes Transformers now.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Warren Johnson, and he drew the first arc. I'm kind of getting into his. I got this Extremity.
Now, is that a Transformers related, or is it its own thing?
No, this is its own thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But his art is so much fun, and it's kind of a sci-fi fantasy type deal.
Okay.
And then he's got another one that's about wrestling.
Ooh,
do I have
I like wrestling? That's like my pastime.
It's called Do a Power Bomb. Let me see if I got it.
Do a Power Bomb?
Yeah.
That's sick.
That's
sick, dude. Do a Power Bomb. I love that.
I'm kind of falling in love with this guy. So,
dude, that's sick. Do a Power Bomb. That is one of the best titles ever. Dude.
He's got another one that's I think it's called Murder Falcon. I haven't got that yet. I think I got it ordered and it's supposed to be coming. But
dude, I'm gonna they're buried somewhere and I'm gonna find them. But my grandmother made sure that I had these when she passed. And it's a box of, they're not really worth anything, but they're worth a lot to me, of comics that I had that I never really read. Dude, I would love to know if there's like cool shit in there. Okay. So I'll send them over and show you what I've got when I do find it.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to I think I'm more excited now that we've talked to get into, well, really both graphic novels and comics, but more so comics a little bit. I think that's taken the lead. Extremity looks awesome, and I like that title. It's very
that looks. I haven't read it yet, but it looks really cool. I got it just based off of his work in the Transformers book.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
I hate. By the way, if I've interrupted you at all, it's the lag, man. I'm so sorry if that's happened.
Oh no.
Berserk or Berserker, are you flexed in that?
No, I never have looked into that. I never have really
very dark.
I never really have gotten into manga. I've read a little bit here and there. Like Death Note. I've read some Death Note. But I don't know.
That's basically like the Japanese or Asian graphic novel, but you read it backwards.
Yeah. And I just never was really into anime and never kind of really found something in manga that I really jived with.
Yeah.
So
I'm not necessarily.
A lot of people love Berserk though. For sure.
I love a dark book. I do. I don't know how dark Berserk gets, but from what I understand, like the first page is like the introduction of how dark it is, which honestly makes me want to read it. But I would say that anime isn't my forte as well. But I'm not necessarily saying no to it either. It just wouldn't be the first thing I picked up. maybe one day I'll pick up. If it's gonna be something that I read of manga, it's gonna be that. Like I don't know of any other, to be honest with you. One Piece, is that manga?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so One
Yeah.
Piece would be maybe another one. I've heard that's good.
Yeah, my son, he's read he's got a couple of box sets, like one, I think not One Piece. What's the other one?
Is it the Viking?
No. Oh shoot. I see it all the time. I'll look and see if I can remember.
This right here though is the picture I was telling you about. The cover that I saw, I believe it was a white
Oh
cover.
yeah. Yeah,
Dude,
absolute
that
Dark
just
Knight.
screams pick me up.
So that's Frank Miller again.
Oh, dude, I know.
Sin City.
I love him automatically. There it is.
Yeah, that's a classic. And really, if somebody's new getting into comics, I would almost you can go out to your shop, and hopefully, if you find a good shop, ask for some recommendations on stuff. But there's so much classics in basically any format that you want to find now. And if anybody wants to come to my channel and ask for some recommendations, I can definitely give that. But
Do it.
There's like I think I did a couple where like somebody was asking me about what's good Fantastic Four places to jump into, or the other one I did was X-Men, I think. Yeah, X-Men. So but there are definitely some seminal works like that, like Absolute Dark Knight, that I have that Absolute up there too. But
it's an $80 hardcover. That bitch is huge.
Yeah, it's huge. I only have a couple of Absolutes. I don't have a whole lot of Absolutes, but I have a few of them. But
I'm gonna have to dive into the lore. That's one of my favorite things, is like the lore of things.
Well, there's something like that, like Dark Knight is totally, you just can read it on its own, and it's done and complete.
Okay, so the Absolute Dark Knight, what I just showed, is like a self-containing story of the Dark Knight, Batman.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything else.
No, it was just its own standalone thing that Frank Miller wrote and drew.
That's awesome, dude.
So
I do like that aspect of comics, and because I kind of knew that there were like these different stories depending on what you're reading. Batman doesn't translate throughout every single Dark Knight or Batman. You don't have to know absolutely everything.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the current lines, but they reboot and start over all the time. That if you just want to jump into where it's currently at and see if you enjoy it, you can. But it for years and years, like from the 70s all the way up till like the 90s, it was one long continuity, and then you do get miniseries or Elseworlds or things like that you don't have to know all that to be able to read it and enjoy it.
From a marketing standpoint, that's brilliant. Look, if you like Batman, but you're not necessarily versed in every aspect of it, to where a story halfway through or at the end or wherever it is in that story, you can start somewhere fresh, man, that is a huge aspect.
Yeah.
So, well, good deal, man. It's been so much fun having you on the channel. And
I've really enjoyed it. It's just I kind of knew it would be just kind of cool hanging out and chatting with you. So
yeah, dude, that's my goal, man. Is like, I love having just normal conversations that aren't necessarily like, I have questions and stuff I write down, but 90% of what I talk about or what goes on is like whatever comes up, and that's beautiful. So, just to reiterate a couple things I wanted to shout out. This is book, I believe it's 16 of 18. I'm not, don't quote me, but this is great. This is part of the Sigma Force novels. Crazy, the science and the history that goes into this. It's going to be something you're like, hold on, this can't be real. I encourage you to read it. So then, where did I put it? Oh, here it is.
Yeah, that sounds right up my alley. I think I'm gonna have to jump into that.
Dude. Yeah,
Sure.
you know, and like I said, you can start anywhere. I started from the beginning, and that's a long road now, but it's like 19 or 20 books. But anywhere you dive in, the only thing you'll gain from starting towards the beginning is the characters they have a small continuous story. For instance, one of the characters loses his arm really early in the series. He's still alive, but you know, little hints like that you'll catch if you've read some of the earlier. If not, it'll all be explained in every book. Like he does such a good job of catching you up no matter where you start. But this is the Starless Crown, James Rollins book 1 of Moonfall, and then you go to the Cradle of Ice, which is
Those are
for
gorgeous
a fantasy
books,
book. What is it?
I love those covers too.
Dude,
Those
they're
are
gangster. Yeah,
awesome.
there. And his the blurb on the front is from Terry Brooks. So I mean, if there's a man in classic fantasy you can trust, it's Terry Brooks. And then book 3 comes out in 5 days.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to brag real quick. I'm gonna I don't often brag. I think that's what dickheads do, but I'm gonna brag. James Rollins touched this book and sent it to me early, signed from the man himself.
That's awesome.
But something I'll treasure forever. But you know, I had him on the channel, so he sent me the book early. But that comes out in 5 days, and it's a Dragon of Black Glass. So there's going to be a book 4, which wasn't necessarily the way things were going to be. It was just going to be 3 books. I'm so happy there's going to be a book 4. Like book 3, the one that comes out in 5 days, is pretty thick. So I love this series. So the longer it is, whatever. I'm going to just continue to read it. And then there are 2 books. As James Clemens, he started his 2nd fantasy series, and I don't believe it will ever be finished. There's been some talks, like there always is with authors who haven't finished a series. I don't know. I didn't ask him. I should have. There's always those like questions, by the way, like if you ever interview somebody that you really look up to, like it's like, damn, I should have asked him that question. There's always those. I'm like, as soon as I get off, I'm like, damn, I didn't ask him this. But he started with Shadowfall, which is a darker fantasy. It's not dark. I wouldn't call it dark by any means, but classic fantasy with a little bit of a darkness to it. It's the Godslayer series. But then there's book 2, Hinterland. But book 3 has yet to, and I don't know if it ever will. But I still recommend it, which is saying something because.
And that was Clemens.
Yep, James Clemens. Yep.
Okay.
Shadowfall and Hinterland. Awesome. And then the series I did speak of earlier is finished, and it was something cool that I didn't talk to him about, but I wanted to. It was one of those, damn, I wish I would have asked him or talked to him about it. Is you guys have heard of Brom, the horror writer?
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy that did his illustrations.
Oh, okay.
Way back when. This is in the 90s. So so many cool aspects to this, man. So I highly, highly recommend those. Since I had talked about them, I wanted to kind of finish my thought on it. But
awesome. And yeah, it sounds like something I would definitely be interested in on both the fantasy side and the thriller side.
Yeah.
So
dude, it's so good. He kind of scratches 2 itches. Man, it's been so fun having you on the channel. And
thanks.
I'll tell you what, the last time that I did my Booktube and Beyond series, where I talked to other creators, whether it be Booktube or Beyond, like TikTok, Instagram, that's kind of that Beyond section. It doesn't really go past an hour. We're at an hour and 40 minutes, so we've had a wonderful conversation. So I just want to thank you so much and for taking the time to hang out.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on here. I've had a blast. It's been great. I'd do it anytime you want.
Well, I'd love to hear that, because I always let anyone know that if I've asked you on the channel that means that I would absolutely love to have you back on the channel. And I've had multiple people back on for second or third. So look for that. And if you have a channel that you're creating, if you ever extend an invitation, I would be happy to come on your channel. But yes, I encourage you to do the YouTube thing and just
Awesome, man.
continue what you're doing, man.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah. And if you ever need a spot filler, just let me know. I think we could chat and find something to talk about.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna look up the book club, by the way. Guys, do you have your Fable in your
Yeah.
Linktree?
Yeah. I got
Yeah.
my Instagram, Father and Son Comics. My TikTok is Father and Son Reads. And then my Linktree's on there, and I got my Fable and the book club Amazon wish list.
There it is. Yeah. Hell yeah. So guys,
but
below in the description, as you all know, where to look for the links. I have provided it. He kept it easy. It's all under his Linktree. Thank God. I love that. By the way, anybody that uses the Linktree, it's very helpful. So go check that out. Subscribe and follow him wherever he is. It's very much worth it. That's why I had him on the channel. I love it. And thank you all for being here live. So once again, Evan, thank you so much. Those that were here live, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. And those who will watch it on replay, thank you as well. If you do, leave in the comments your favorite part, or if we're talking about a comic or a novel, it doesn't matter. Let me know what your favorite comic or graphic novel is, because it's something that I want to further my knowledge in and have more experience with. The YouTube stuff, of course. Follow, or not follow. Goodness, there's so many different socials I start to forget. Like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Adios.
Awesome. Thanks again, Matt.
No problem. See you guys.